right, so the guest says episode 41, and I guess I'll say someone.
2. Episode 42.
So what do I do? Lights, camera, action.
Look at
Just look at the camera and be like,
right.
Somewhat Savants, episode 42.
Oh, I got it. Ready? In a world that is no longer classified as BC or AD before Christ, before COVID. This isn't 2019, folks. It's January 29th. It's January 2022, episode 42. Somewhat Savants coming to you now.
Woo! So, everyone, let's welcome Adam Minossora. Adam Minossora, good friend of the podcast, likely going to be on this thing pretty often. Good friend of mine, known him for a long time. And for those of you wondering, there is a connection between the three of us. We all went to the same acting school. Woo! Notice a trend? So, anyway, Adam, glad to have you here, bro.
Yeah, man, super excited about it always.
Yeah, man. Where are you from?
I'm from a lot of places. So if we're talking like bloodline, I'm violently Polish. Both of my parents were born in Poland, respectively East and West Poland. And I was born in Vancouver, Canada.
Nice.
BC, baby. Go Canucks.
That seems like a cool-ass city.
Of course, it's biased, but in my opinion, it's the most beautiful city in the world. It's I love mountains, but it's where the mountains meet the sea. Dude, if you can put like a picture up of just like the Vancouver skyline,
It's pretty a dense skyline.
it's incredible. I mean, dude, you have orcas, you have killer whales in Vancouver that you can see. Like that's the Canuck symbols, like this like native tribal Canadian art that has like the Canucks, right?
So,
Yeah.
you know, let's jump right into it, bro.
Okay. What do you want
There's
to
a
know?
lot going on.
There's a lot going on, and
Yes,
you know,
sir.
part of the reason we thought this would be perfect to have you on was because of what's going on in Canada right now. You were born in Canada,
Yeah.
and currently Canada is in a full-blown revolt, it seems, with this trucker convoy, the Freedom Convoy.
You want to know what's crazy about that? I have family in Canada that lives in Vancouver, and I was talking to them about it the other day. I'm like, did you hear what's happening in Canada? And no clue, zero clue. They're like, we haven't like heard anything. What? Like it's not being broadcasted anywhere. Like,
Well, it's funny you say that because I just saw something that traffic cameras, the government has been like blocking
Cutting them
out the
off.
cameras
Yeah, so
so
people
you
can't
can't
see.
see the convoy
yeah,
going by.
Yeah.
So they don't know about it.
No. Also coming from a Polish background, you know, my parents were, when they were growing up, they were being occupied by the Russians.
Right.
And so their curriculum was very heavily influenced by the agenda. If you follow history and you see the solidarity movement in Poland, like, you know, I'll watch documentaries about like the Berlin Wall coming down and stuff. And so
Tear down this wall.
yeah, and I'll get like really emotional. Like I'll like tear up, and it's kind of like a beautiful thing, you know? And so when I saw the support, first of all, the ability to be able to mobilize like that, super impressive.
That's what I was thinking.
For
Go
those who
ahead.
don't know, and maybe some people in Canada watching still don't know, what exactly is going on?
So the trucker Freedom Convoy is obviously they have the jabbity jab mandate, and the truckers are revolting because the truckers are required to have it. So there is a convoy going on their way to Ottawa, which they're arriving now, of thousands. I mean, I think I saw it was spreading
50,000 trucks plus at this point.
cars, and American truckers have joined in.
Right.
I think like 600 or something was the number I saw.
Yeah.
So that's what's going on, all in protest of this mandate.
And you know what's crazy? It's because when you go to Western Canada, it's more, in my opinion, I think it's more like Americanized. And the great thing about when you go east, it's all French Canadians. when you have the word French and revolution together, like you're in for a treat, dude. If we go back in history, man, and you look at the French Revolution, like those fuckers don't play around. And so the second that they feel like their rights or their freedoms have been infringed upon, I mean, you're going to have a lot of people being like, we don't want this no more. We are tired of the mandates. We are tired of all this. I want to eat escargot with no problem. Our Walmart ran out of snails and now we need more. And so the trucks have stopped coming and we want more snails. So like, you know, okay, whatever it is, right? Well, liberty.
Or die.
Yeah, exactly. We have started to manufacture guillotines in our warehouse. We're going back to the 1700s.
So let me ask you, do you think that Eastern Canada, it being more French, do you think that's more of, let's just call it how it is, more of a liberalized area?
I've been in the States for a really long time, so I'm more like attuned to like American politics. I know that Canada's always been very liberal. I would assume so, just how city centers are. Typically, cities are more liberal than the outskirts, right?
Right.
But I don't know so much about what French Canadians think of, or what they're like more like politically.
What are they thinking about this whole thing?
I don't,
because they're just taking it in France.
Canada is a Commonwealth country, you know, Commonwealth state to England, which is weird because you have French Canadians that speak French, and like it's kind of like going to France. You go to like
the Queen's on their money. You're right.
Yeah. So I don't know if they align more with because obviously England's no longer a part of the European Union because of Brexit. But
Boris Johnson just dropped all his shit.
Yeah. So I don't know if they align with that more. I don't know, but also for some reason, just historically, I mean, like I read a lot of, you know, like I like history a lot. You know, big fan of Napoleon, whatever. 18th, 19th century literature is my jam. So like obviously, like a lot of that was happening during that time. I would think that they are probably not so much into like big government like controlling everything. That's just what I would think historically. But maybe what's happening right now, like in France, I don't know if they align with the French or with the English more so, you know, or they probably have their own identity. But regardless, I just know that the support from Canadian citizens for what's happening,
it's massive.
It's massive. It's huge.
Now, what does this mean? Because you're French Canadian guy, when you were doing the accent, you brought up a good point. The Walmart's running out of stuff, and we already have a shipping deal going on. I mean, how much worse is it going to get now that the U.S. is joining in?
Like
worse. The actual truckers not. Yeah, exactly.
So much worse.
Because, I mean, I think all the government wants to do is see a group of people bend the knee. That's just...
Also, dude, Canadian customs is probably one of the, if not the strictest in the world. Canadian customs is intense. Just a quick, like, you know, gear off is I saw this Aziz Ansari special for on Netflix.
Oh God, how was that? Did you watch it yet, Jared?
I don't watch
Dude, you know, I was a huge fan of him before, and which is weird. He moved to England, so he lives in England now. So it's like you kind of just jump ship, you know? His whole thing, and I don't know if this was maybe, it was filmed and then, I don't know how recently it was filmed, so maybe his opinions have changed. But like he's talking about Joe Biden, and he's like, why do people have a problem with Biden? Like, you know, hello? Like, I don't have a problem with Biden. Like, I don't even see the guy. Like, you know, what? It's not like he's done anything crazy or anything like that. Like, it's Joe Biden. And then he's like, why are people so upset? Like, I don't understand. Like, we don't see him. Like, there's no content. He's not making content. And I was like...
That's a great impression.
And I was like...
That is right.
Why, I'm like, why are... Like, what do you mean? Why the fucking supply chain crisis? Like, there's shelves that are like not being filled. Like the economy is not doing well.
Inflation is out of control.
Inflation is really high. So like people have a lot of reasons to be upset. Like, yeah, and he has definitely said his controversial things. And of course, you know, growing up with people that have had Alzheimer's and dementia in my family, like I know what that looks like. You know, there's a lot of reasons to be upset.
Okay, well, real quick, born in Canada, how do you feel about Trudeau?
Oh my God. So my parents actually went to the same university that he went to, University of British Columbia, UBC.
Really?
Thunderbirds, yeah.
Because that dude's not that old.
No, he's not. He's not.
Because he looks like what?
But he has
40.
Yeah, he's young, but he has a family like background of holding political office. I think his father or his grandfather was also prime minister or had some type of
that's pretty
held
funny.
some high office.
It's like the Bushes of Canada.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
They're
They in this shit.
Yeah,
they in the mess.
Yeah,
okay.
they're the W's. Freedom fries. But why do we call them French fries? We're in America. We should call them freedom fries. Why? But for Trudeau, which is weird because obviously your like opinion changes, and I think that's super important for people to understand. Like, it's okay if your opinion changes over time. And originally,
I agree.
I
used to like Bush. I don't like those other Bushes anymore at all.
Before, I was like, yeah, Trudeau from UBC, like represent, like he's prime minister, and like he was socially like liberal, and I feel like for the most part like we are, right? Like there's some social issues that I'm sure we could be like, oh, I don't agree with that or this, and my mind's definitely changed on it, but for the most part, like in terms of equality and just having like a fair way of living, I was like, great, go Trudeau. But dude, the guy's, I think he's in over his head. I think he's really young, doesn't have a lot of experience.
But hold on.
Yeah.
I don't want to give this guy too much benefit of the doubt or anything.
No, there's no benefit of the doubt what I'm getting at.
Oh, well, fair enough. But like when he says things like this fringe minority, when he knows damn well it's not a fringe minority, why is he doing this? Because it's not happening here in the United States. Like the federal government who's in charge doesn't acknowledge the overwhelming amount of people who are not okay with what they're doing. Why is Trudeau doing this as well to his people?
I think, okay.
Is it intentional? Are they in on something that...
So the thing is ever since my parents were in university, they used to call Vancouver Vancong because of how many Hong Kong residents and citizens were living in Canada. Vancouver, by and large, and I don't know, I can't speak for the rest of Canada, but the majority of real estate is owned by Chinese/Hong Kong citizens. Like, they fucking own Canada. They own Canada. Canada's a very social, and the people will argue between the definitions of socialism and communism, whatever, but at some point it all leads to the same thing.
Well, yeah, no, that's why if you ever look at those charts with the political circle and like how when the pendulum swings like too far to fascism, too far to communism, it ends up at the same place. They meet. Point. And it shows like a circle where all these different ideologies land. Centrist, lean left, lean right, and then you get to the extremes, communism, fascism, but as you get closer to that spot, it's the same. Structured differently, but same results in suffering, famine, all that shit.
Yeah, so think about it like this. Even though people are like, Hitler was a fascist, and he was a fascist, right? But remember that they started off as the socialist what's the correct definition? It's like Socialist Workers' Party, like the German People's Socialist Workers' Party.
I think you're right.
That's what it was called originally. It's the Socialist Workers' Party, right? And then you have like the Soviet Union, the USSR, and they were obviously communist. Both Nazi Germany and the Soviet Union had their gulags, they had their concentration camps, they both marginalized people, they both divided people. Okay. Going back to Trudeau and talking about that really quick and just saying that, I think he's got communist money. I think that they obviously have a socialist communist agenda. Maybe that's my tinfoil hat, but like coming from...
No, fuck it, tinfoil hat. That's probably true.
But coming from a Polish background that dealt with like from my parents, my grandparents, my uncles. Like I had an uncle that was almost beat to death because he was out like 15 minutes out past curfew. I've had family members be thrown in jail and tortured because, there was a recycling project in school and, they were procrastinating. So last minute, they just pulled out some papers and put it in their book bag on their way to school. And then, they were being checked, and they say, open your bag, what's in your backpack, and they find like anti-communist propaganda thrown in, and you're being tortured for 5 months. That's happened. So coming from, I guess, a paranoid background of big government stepping in,
sure,
I think that Canada, and especially with Trudeau, I think he's being paid off.
So this is all about a vaccine mandate.
Sure.
Okay. So right now, if you're not vaccinated and you're not in compliance with the mandate, you're kind of getting cut out from society. So where does this go? Like, where do you think that'll go? Do you think they'll back off? Like, do you think with this convoy happening now, do they give in, or do you think this convoy is going to make a difference? Do you think they'll back off?
I hope so. And I think that something will be done, in the coming weeks or in coming months or something.
What do you think will happen?
What do I think will happen?
Because they're arriving into Ottawa now.
Sheesh, man.
Have we heard what the convoy's end game is? I mean, just to...
Oh, yeah. They want to remove all mandates.
Okay.
All mandates.
And then they're just not going to work until it happens, I guess.
Here's my issue, right? Let's say you remove Trudeau from office. That's not going to solve the problem. You still have an entire cabinet or entire government. So let's say they remove everyone from office. Who steps in? Who comes in at that point?
Well, that's the thing. Like, do you think they'll...
Donald Trump!
Man,
All right.
where's Trump?
All right, so obviously I didn't have a lot. Well, I had a lot of success in the U.S. clearly, but my new wife is Canadian and has provided me Canadian citizenship. So I will be going to Ottawa. It's very cold here, but I do have a fur coat made out of polar bear fur. It's real. It's real polar bear fur.
So I guess, but look, what are they going to do? They're going to take the politicians out. They're going to tar and feather them like fuck. So it's either...
Look what happened to Gaddafi. It can happen.
It can. But like, for instance, Boris Johnson in the UK, he went ahead and dropped all of it.
Dude, at some point, like they're just, and this is the difference between the United States, Australia, and Canada. The reason why it'll never happen in the US is because we have guns.
For now.
In Canada, like the reason why they're able to get away with stuff in Canada and Australia is like, what are they going to do?
All right, mate. So what we're going to have to do here is borrow a bunch of boomerangs from the Aboriginals, right? We're going to go all the way to, I don't know, Sydney or Melbourne. I don't know. Great Barrier Reef, doesn't matter. And we're going to boomerang these fuckers.
And those things will come right on back to us, eh?
And what we're going to do is we're going to basically put contracts on boomerangs. We're going to throw them into office. They're going to sign them and they're going to come back to us, right?
Well, I'm worried, though, because you bring up guns. But what I'm saying is, Australia, they did a buyback, and they convinced them to give their guns up. Do you think with the way, the conditioning and the psychosis that is taking place here, that they could convince a swath of the population to turn in their guns in a place like the U.S.?
No way, dude.
I don't think so either, personally, because I feel
What
like
they're gonna do
it's
is what
so
they're
heightened
gonna
and
do-
gun sales have been out of control.
Yes,
That's true.
What they're going to do is what they did in Rome, right? Back in the BC days.
before COVID, before Christ.
What they're going to do is they're going to say, hey, this is Rome. You can't bring any military into this city. You can't bring any weapons into like Rome was a military-free zone. If they're going to do anything, that's how it's going to be like. It's same thing. Like in Chicago, be like, no weapons in Chicago, no weapons in Miami, no weapons in New York, which is essentially what they've tried to do in bigger cities, right?
Right.
And then everywhere else.
Which doesn't work.
Doesn't work, but everywhere else, they have weapons.
Well, what I find interesting is here in the United States, now the Capitol, you can't even go see public landmarks unless you have papers showing that you're jabbed.
Uh-huh.
And they're building a wall around the White House now.
Oh, what?
Yeah. They're building stuff. It's almost like they're guarding off, the federal officials.
Sure.
And it's almost like a visual symbolic representation of this divide. Like they're staying in their compound. It reminds me of like Hunger Games type shit.
Yeah.
Where they're kind of, running things and we're kind of on the outside. And to me, it shows fear from them of us, like you said, with the guns, but it also is the complete antithesis to what all of the United States is from the beginning, like the people's house, are, the founding things that happened for this country, and we can't even go see them now. But I just don't understand why they're doing things like that. What say you?
Why they're doing that in other countries? Is that the question?
No, here. Why are they building a wall around the White House and stuff?
To separate us.
No, I mean, yeah, if you want
to slowly desensitize us to living in the kind of like boxed off world. I mean, that's what I think is with the masks, is to get us to recognize each other less and just create this separated society.
I think it's all about identity. We want to talk about identity. Like this
Well, it reminds me of 1984 with like the Ministry of Truth and all those different sectors, like very secretive, you know, what's going on in there, but it's the government buildings. You know what I'm saying? Now we don't have...
Am I able to move this here? Okay, so now I'm going to like get out of my comfy thing. Okay, so I'm really passionate about this.
About what?
When I went to school, I originally went in for psychology, and I really got into like developmental psychology and the over diagnosis and prescribing of medicines, right? Because of everything is never about right now. It's always about 10, 15, 20 years in the future. So and there's studies on this already that socially, to be able to communicate with one another, and we all know, and maybe this is a made-up statistic, but like 70% of communication is body language, right?
Right.
Facial expression, stuff like that. If you start and it's already happened. You have a baby, right? And
they've destroyed the next generation.
So the IQ points are dropping, right? Rapidly. So you have if people don't have an identity, then they're malleable. And if they're malleable, that means that you can mold them into whatever you want. And that's happening in education, early education. And then what we learn from our parents, because a lot of what we learn is inside of the home, right? And then TVs are a great way to do that, right? So you'll be able to propagate a certain message. So they're watching it on the news all the time. You know, don't watch the news. But like you have a mask on someone's face. I mean, I see people driving in their car alone
with a mask on. Mm-hmm.
You know,
even here in Florida,
yes,
where we're supposedly the best, which we are, people are still doing it here. You see it. So
you have kids that have masks on, right? And then I don't want to go too deep into it because I have a question for you guys as well, a kind of fun question. But basically, if you tell a kid that he's not male or female, he then doesn't have an identity in terms of like his gender or his sex, right? And, I really don't have a strong opinion on that as far as what you want to do when you're an adult. But like when someone's developing, that's really important, right? The overdiagnosis and overprescribing of medications that alters brain chemistry and then the brain development and then what they have to be dependent on, right? Completely changes that structure. Diet is huge into that as well. And then you start doing it in terms of like communication and social awareness of things, right? You're putting masks on kids. They don't know their identity. They're very confused about their identities. We're already confused growing up as it is. Like I was super confused about myself, like growing up. I'm like, am I a good person? Am I a bad person? Am I gay? Am I straight? Like what's going on? Right. I had no clue. And a lot of it was just like, anxiety stuff, you're figuring yourself out. So it's already hard enough to begin with when you're going through puberty, right? Like it's a difficult time as it is, first loves, first breakups, like all this stuff, divorces in the family. Like you have a lot of traumatic experiences in your life, but you have to manage them in a healthy way. Which I feel like was really good about this generation is that as opposed to our parents or maybe somebody that, whose parents came from Poland and they didn't deal with, post World War II, people didn't deal with things mental health wise in a healthy manner. We're able to identify those things and be like, oh, I want to fix this. I want to improve on this. I'm reading a lot of books. I'm seeing a psychologist. Great. But, now we're going to be heading into a place to where, and that's people say, presidents and leaders have been saying that for thousands of years. Our children. We have to think about our children. And so
it's bullshit.
Yeah. And so that's my concern and worry about that is identity.
What did you want to ask us?
Now, the fun question is, if there is post, what's the Hunger Games called? Like it's a
dystopian?
Dystopian, yeah. If there's a dystopian, thing going on, what are you guys doing? Are you guys going for like a this is the end type thing? You're gonna start wearing leather chains and create your own tribe of people? What are
Mad Max fucking weirdos?
Yeah, what are we doing? Because I'm not a physically huge guy,
Well,
the great ape is taking over.
Are we talking like what I would really do? My actual plan?
Yeah,
what's your plan?
What's your plan? Yeah, what is your
plan?
If it happened tomorrow, or let's say after you guys leave, I would book it to my parents
and take it from there.
And see what my dad would do.
Honestly, what's great about your parents' house is how kind of remote it is in a way. Like it's not to the point to where it's so remote that you're in the middle of fucking nowhere exactly, but you're not close enough to a metropolitan that would be probably going crazy.
Well,
because that's the areas you'd want to stay away from during this.
It is near the villages, and I could imagine
On those crazy old hags.
dude, marching over the hill.
All you see is a bunch of golf carts coming over.
That's what I was gonna say, dude. That like they'll be like,
All right, Ocala, we need you to come into Orlando now. We need backup.
and like
The cavalry's coming.
and you just hear like, and just a bunch of golf carts and stuff, and you have like these old people, and they're like,
We're not gonna take
they have their like
See all the
their
loofahs and the fucking...
their 9 irons from all the golf that they're gonna do.
Oh my God, dude. All those fucking geezers with their one-shots. Yeah!
Now
That's
we're
what I would be afraid of.
We're talking dystopian, not zombie, right?
Dystopian. Because
yeah.
No
first,
zombies.
No zombies. man.
Okay.
they would...
That changes things.
They're all coming to get the resources. Because I live in an apartment. So when you don't have a lot of space, you can't really prepare for a dystopian type of event or scenario very well because you don't have anywhere to put shit. Because it depends on, I guess, if it happened tomorrow, like, all right, what would cause it? Let's start there. What would cause a dystopia? Because in my opinion, things like an EMP, the government cracking down on like martial law for whatever reason.
That would be my guess is martial law.
But think about this. When COVID first happened in 2020,
Yeah.
remember the videos that were coming out of the National Guard, be like, get in your house?
Yeah,
Shooting
yeah,
rubber
yeah.
bullets at
Shooting
people.
rubber bullets. Like,
Yeah.
we were there almost for a
Yeah,
second.
yeah.
So if that ever happened again and it had like more of a permanent, permanent lifespan,
Yeah.
I guess I would stay at home. You could come, whatever.
I'm coming over.
Yeah, because we have, some weapons. I have some propane tanks, so we'd be able to cook food.
Don't you think an apartment is like one of the worst places to be? Like, there's gonna be somebody who's, fuck it, there's no law. We're gonna go around looting now.
I've thought about that. You're right, because you're sharing a building with many people, and like,
Who knows if you're gonna get along with them?
yeah. Well, thank God I get along with every single neighbor I'm around. I know all of them.
Good.
I know across. I know them.
Good.
And I know everyone on the bottom in my building. But I'm less concerned rather than being in an apartment like downtown Orlando.
Dude, this
For sure.
Dude, this is what I would
And I'm
do.
kind of tucked away by a lake.
Yeah. So you can go fishing.
Yeah, like I got, I could get the fuck out of there if I had to. But I don't know.
Gotta build a raft.
I would probably leave.
All right.
I actually probably
You
would
probably leave. This is what we're
I'd
doing.
probably go to my mom's house in East Orlando. Yeah, that's where I'd go.
I know. So this is the thing.
What would you guys do? We're gonna go to our mom's house.
Mom. So, dude, this is what I would do personally. First of all, you need a community right off the bat. So I'm calling people. I'm calling
Yeah,
friends.
no, I
right?
agree. You
so
do
I'm
need to have a
calling Zach.
community.
I'm calling you, Jared.
what if cell towers are down?
Yeah, that's
Oh,
the thing. Like if an EMP goes,
I know.
or if the government shuts off communication.
Great.
Walkie-talkies.
Okay, letters. No, okay. How the fuck? There's no courier system.
I was going to say, get a homing pigeon.
Yeah.
Come here, Larry.
This is what I'm doing. First
Take
thing.
this to Adam, please.
First thing I'm doing is I'm going to use as much of my car as I can before gas runs out. I'm going to Zach's house, right? Right off the bat, I know Bethany's going to be like, I'm going to my parents' house. I'm like, great, but we need a unit. So I'm calling family, I'm calling friends. Be like, we have to all aggregate in the same place and essentially make a village, okay? And then I'm getting a horse. First thing I'm doing is getting a horse.
You could probably steal one at that point.
No, yeah. Which it'll go old days, be like,
Well, there, he stole a horse, so we gotta cut off his fingers.
but
This is America Sharia law here. Yeah.
So I'm getting a horse because we got to have horses and I like them. And then we're building tents and a place. We're going old school, baby. We're going primal at this point.
We have to work in the night.
All right, because everything that we're gonna have to do is gonna have to be. I'm telling my whole plan right now to the government. Like, all right, so we know Adam's stealing a horse. We know he's going to Zach's house first thing.
See, because I was thinking about, because then I thought, like, well, I would become like a bounty hunter. Like a Boba Fett, I think. Because I've got now this dope helmet for riding the motorcycle. And I would get on the bike and I would have my sling, and I would put fear into people, I think.
Whoa.
I think I would put fear into people so people wouldn't mess with me.
I feel like I'd be a good leader, though. I feel like I could be I know I'm small,
you know
but I
what?
feel like I'd
Times
be a
like
good
this
leader.
is when you discover who you are.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we'll see about that.
I mean, I think what I would do is I go a little John F. Kennedy. I'd go a little Kennedy, and it'd be like,
People of the village. thing you should fear is the government. Do we have a name for the village?
And then we'd argue about the name of the village. I'd be like,
We're gonna call it Savantsville.
Savantsville.
Or we're going to call it somewhat of a village.
Somewhat of a village.
Now, we don't have a space program anymore. And we don't have groceries. But we do have a lake. We can go fishing and there's cranes and alligators. Zach...
We could eat baby gators, bro, because Zach knows how to call them. He go, ow, ow, ow.
You know, and I've done that before. It works. But yes, we could eat gator.
You know how to take a gator apart?
I actually have never skinned a gator.
Have you ever skinned anything?
No. I filleted a fish. That's as close as I've gotten to...
See, we're so fucked.
We're
fucked. If
See,
anything happens, we're fucked. Everyone's just... No, I at least know how to milk a cow, you know? Well,
Come here, Betty.
My grandparents had farm, dude. I had a farm. You take the udder and you just... And it's warm. It's hot. Raw milk is hot, baby.
Oh, man. So if you did that today outside, it'd be like steaming.
Oh, it'd be a steamer right now. You got floaties in there and stuff. You strain it. You know, at least when I was a kid, we went to, we had, in Poland, it's called an obóz. Shit, what is it called? It's called a field trip. We'd have field trips to like these places in Springfield and stuff, and you go to these cabins, and they would teach you how to churn butter. So I know how to churn butter. It takes a while. I know how to milk a cow.
See,
I know how to edit a video.
No, we're going to need that because we're going to have to broadcast.
There's no internet.
Out.
The phone, the cell range, it's all off grid.
You're
And
right.
there could
you're
be
right.
no power.
There could be no power. Exactly.
Likely no power. I mean, like my dad's got a generator.
Dude, that's
honestly,
who you go to.
Whoever has a generator, that's where we would go. So maybe we would go to your mom's house.
It's set up like a castle because you got the lake behind you. So unless you got a boat intruder, which could happen because, I mean, they use boats like cars there. All the restaurants on the lake have boats.
Dude, could you
parking lots.
imagine?
That's right. There's restaurants on your parents' lake.
Yeah.
Could you imagine being raided by a bunch of like jet skiers and what?
They're like
Water skiers, bro.
Pirates. Jet ski pirates.
That's what I'm saying, dude. It's good. It would mayhem. It would be absolute mayhem.
Well, I think the one thing that would for sure cause it to go into mayhem is if we lost power. If we lost power grid,
for sure.
Like not martial law might not necessarily cause mayhem to ensue right away.
Not right now because people would be too afraid to do anything.
They'd be too afraid because the force of the military would be intimidating.
And a lot of people would love it too. They'd be like, "They're here to save us. They want us to stay inside the house."
When COVID happened, there were people literally saying like, "Oh, is it just me? Do I want more National Guard?" I'm like, "Are y'all fucking insane?"
No, because history is being erased, and I know I've told you this before, but this is what bothers me about like, so obviously erecting a statue of a Confederate general at the time that it happened, let's say in 1860, right? They built it up. It was in honor of that Confederate general. But as time goes on, and obviously our principles have changed, and we didn't agree with what happened or why the South was fighting for its rights, which was slave rights. They wanted to retain their slave rights. Not a good thing. I went to Asheville, North Carolina, and there's a giant block, and there's no monument on it anymore. And what bothered me about that was if you have a little 6-year-old kid and he goes, "My mom, what? It's just a block here. What happened?" And then the mom's going to go, "I don't know. It's just a block." So now that kid will never know what was there and why it was wrong that it was there. Versus if you have
you're doomed to repeat it.
Versus if you have it, then you could say this was a Confederate general. A war was fought for this reason because it was wrong to have slaves, and we educate and learn that way. When you erase history and then you propagate a different system, like Marxism, for example, which people love for some reason, but they have no education on it. Look at Venezuela, look at Cuba, look at Eastern Europe. It doesn't work. It's not a good thing. We have to talk about the effectual truth. Read some Machiavelli, people. The effectual truth. What actually works in practice, not just on a piece of paper. Because as we know, like I'm a contractor, stuff doesn't always work to the blueprints. And if you have an engineering student that comes right out of college and they're trying to talk to a guy who's been in the workforce for 30 years and he goes, "Well, my plans say this," the guy's going to go, "It doesn't work because I've been doing it for 30 years. You follow that guy. But it's a system. It needs to work. There needs to be trust in place for those things, So that's why I think that it wouldn't go well post-apocalyptic, whatever the word is. I keep forgetting. Dystopian. It's not going to work well.
I've been thinking lately about the possibility of a foreign power taking a chance and like dropping something on us. Because I think about whatever happened in North Korea.
My opinion on that is based on how technology is now, we can see that shit coming from a mile away. The only thing that I feel like they get away with, back to what I said earlier, is dropping something like an EMP now. Like, I don't feel like you can just drop a
I didn't
bomb.
make that correlation, sorry.
What?
I spaced on what an EMP was. I guess I just assume... I'm talking more nuclear. Do you really think... what do you mean by defense systems in place? Like,
I'm saying because the technology's so advanced, like, we could probably shoot it out of the sky.
Yeah. No,
you know what I mean?
And plus, there's no way.
Like Pearl Harbor, that can't happen again. Like a sneak attack like that.
I mean, unless they let it happen.
Unless they let it happen. Right, exactly.
So here's the thing, though. Like, I was looking into because of the whole Ukraine situation, right? And I was looking into what would happen if there's a full-scale war, right? And then China and Russia, if they were to combine forces, would they be able to wipe out the United States? And I was like, oh, shit. Like, what if there's a full-scale war? And I was looking into it, and I was reading a bunch of stuff, and there's just no way. If it's just China and Russia, like, yeah, they're huge, they're two superpowers. But they also don't have all of NATO. They don't have the whole European Union behind them. The United States has the largest military by far times, like, I don't even know. The U.S. military alone is bigger than, I think, all countries, like, combined. It's crazy. So if you have the European Union, NATO,
thank God.
You have the U.S., the reason why that Russia or China or North Korea wouldn't do anything like that is because it's just it wouldn't pan out for them well. I mean, like, yeah, it would be swift. In my opinion, I think it would be super fast and then nothing would happen.
Yeah, do you think it would be swift with these fucks in power now?
Depends on who's paying them off, right?
Right.
But the thing is, like, with the whole Ukrainian situation, like, I was in Ukraine and, like, they've been having a conflict for a while. I was in Kiev. Like, I saw, like, fighter jets flying over my head. Like, it was wild. It's a wild country, dude.
Well, I think it's interesting because Biden has a little bit of a history with the Ukraine, his corrupt business. You know what I'm saying? And his little son, his little crackhead boy, Hunter, fucking selling paintings for $500,000 now.
Do you know they say that art is, like, the best way to launder money? Because, like, there's no you can put whatever value you want on it.
That makes sense to me.
Yeah, you could paint a stick figure and be like,
It's a portrait of my father.
That might be why art sucks now, because I'm not a real big fan of some of this contemporary art. You know what I mean? Where it's like, oh, what is this?
It's to your interpretation.
So essentially, Hunter Biden is laundering money.
for sure, dude.
That's what I would think.
For sure. 1,000%.
and we're just supposed to lay down and take it and just be okay with it.
I know.
That...
And I love when Psaki defends that asshole in the
Is
press
that her
room.
name, Psaki?
Jen Psaki.
I don't like that lady.
She's not doing very good.
No.
She's not a good spin woman.
Did you see her latest thing? I'll tell you guys about my little tiff with this Instagram person.
Yeah.
But her latest press conference, they were talking about the monoclonal antibodies and talking about, like, why are you siphoning them off, essentially. And she straight up just lied and was just like, come on, we know what works. It's vaccines and boosters. And just straight up disregarded the actual evidence of this being an effective treatment, which, i.e., you utilized monoclonal antibodies. My grandmother, who's 84, just used it.
Good.
Unvaxxed.
Okay, good.
And she got better within 48 hours. So, you have her blatantly saying stuff like that. But anyway, long story short, I get in a fight with this stupid idiot on fucking Instagram. And they're basically telling me,
Well, Omicron has over 40 different mutations, and the monoclonal antibodies don't bind to the protein, lipid, black bullshit antibody thing as easily.
So the only thing is that is effective against it is vaccines. And I was just like, okay, what's your point? She took it and it worked. I don't care, what you have to say, because it worked, And she's like,
Compared to what or whom? You need a baseline.
and I'm like,
You don't
what are
even know
you
your
talking
baseline.
about? I'm like, what are you talking about? So I go to this page, and she, in her thing,
Scientist, PhD, blah, 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 blah.
nothing but COVID posts out the ass, like just text, And it looked like a fake profile. It was weird.
The variants are like there's 40 mutations. It's the same thing as like there's 40 genders.
I was like
Omicron has different genders. So I identify as COVID, and I'm a lamp. I'm a lamp COVID. My pronouns are now COVID and lamp.
Well, we identify as Zer here. I mean, shit, that's interesting. I mean, we're here now. Let's talk about pronouns.
Language is really important. Like language is super, super important. How we define things and how we identify things is super important, right? But there needs to be some type of structure to that, because without structure, you don't have an identity. That's fine. I've waited at a table before. I go, here you go, sir. Here you go, miss. I call everyone sir and miss in any regard, in any work that I do.
Yeah, it's almost like natural.
Yeah, and so here you go, sir. And the person was kind of shocked, and I couldn't tell. And they go, oh, I'm sorry. Could you call me miss? I'm this. Right off the bat, yeah, absolutely. Like, I'm not going to make anyone uncomfortable or bastardize them on how they feel. Like, I believe that you feel that way 100%, and I'm going to respect it. Like, 1,000,000%, that's fine by me.
What if they said, call me they?
Call me they? I'd say you're the only person here.
Okay.
I feel as though, let's say I was presented in the call me Zer situation. Maybe I'm a pretty passive guy. Like, I'm a people pleaser. So I think in any sort of interaction, if someone was genuine with me and insistent, like, hey, call me Zer, I'd be like, okay. But I don't think there needs to be these mandates and laws and the rules in colleges.
Right, like what Jordan Peterson got ousted for.
All jokes aside, I would be respectful and I would be nice about it. But I'll tell you a story real quick, which blows my mind, and I told you this. I was in the elevator, and I go into the elevator, and there's a guy with his dog. There's another girl in the elevator. And then the girl sees the dog, and she goes,
oh my gosh, can I pet them?
And I was facing like the buttons, and I go, pet them? I'm thinking in my head, I'm like, there's one dog. Them.
It's like the meme with the math problems.
Yeah, I'm like, it's one, and I look over, and I see the dog, and the guy goes, yeah, you can pet her.
How the fuck do you know what this dog identifies as?
Are you serious?
As it's licking its vagina, as the dog's doing this, could you imagine?
Don't do that again.
Could you imagine walking a dog, and then it's got a red rocket, and it's peeing, right? And then someone comes by, and they're like,
can I pet them? Can I pet they?
It's one dog, and then you go, oh, it's a boy. It's a dude. His name's Titan.
How the fuck do you know what he identifies as, huh?
It's a dog, and it's licking its penis. It's licking
lipstick-looking penis.
It's licking its male dog boner.
So I have been looking into some different things, and I kind of am finding out like some more old school terms when it comes to transgender people. So then there's like people who transition like way back when they call themselves transsexuals. Mm-hmm. Okay. I'm seeing more and more that these people are not identifying with this whole pronoun gender movement thing because they think it's crazy. Because I just watched a video with that guy Buck Angel I was telling you about, and he straight up says, I don't want this for myself. He goes, but this is the best way forward because he has the dysphoria. So I feel like, because like you said, feel that way. I actually believe people who are true transitioning and transsexual people, it's something going on. Like they're born with it, and it's an actual mental thing.
Yeah, but they're serious about it.
They're serious, but like you said, with language is so important. When they transition, they do it so they're so committed, and they get to a certain point where it's like, dude, I would have never known that he was a female. He had a beard, a full beard, looked like an old man. His voice was kind of weird, but. Nonetheless, and he calls himself Trampa. I thought that was hilarious. So, but anyway, then we get to these gender things. I was watching this video, and this guy, he's like talking to the camera, and they're having a kid. I don't even know if he's with a woman or not, but it's neither here nor there. But he's like, so, all of you have been asking, are we going to gender our child? Kid's not born. Kid's not born. Kid is not even born. Doesn't even stand a chance, and he's not even born. And he's like, so we're not. We are going to, here where we live, when the baby's born, you can actually mark on the certificate X. So they're marking him as X from the start.
Probably
and then
Portland.
He's telling all this. He's like, we're going to let him like figure it out, and we're just going to use they, them, or whatever it is. And then he goes, but, for certain cis family members, we'll allow them to use he or she to make it easier for them.
So,
and I'm like, what? This is delusion. So, I just think it's crazy. It's at certain points, like how far.
You know what's going to happen?
What?
So, child's going to be born. It's going to live its life. However it lives its life, it's going to be on the birth certificate or whatever.
2,000 years later.
That paper will have decomposed and degraded into the dirt. And then the next race of aliens or people that are going to start doing archaeological digs are going to find the bones of that body. And then they're going to do whatever fucking carbon dating thing that they do with it. And they're going to go,
well, this is a great discovery for our race, our alien race. We have discovered what we consider to be a pre-humanoid of this era. And from the testing, we have concluded that it was a 44-year-old man.
I'm serious. Okay, so
that's a good point, because that is true. Like when you die and you're in the ground,
all the paperwork,
when you get your bones,
you
they
don't
can
know what they're thinking.
Well, what are you saying?
I'm saying that look, you, when you collect the bones, you don't know what they thought.
You could just say it's a male or female,
right?
But I guess that drives the point home. It's only male or female,
right? But the thing is, even with I guess like old school, like transsexual or transgenderism, I don't know the terminology, my apologies, but like you have a man that wants to transition into a woman, right? That man has identified that masculinity and being a man exists and that it's real. Then he's also acknowledging that a woman exists. So men and women exist. He's transitioning from a man to a woman. Same thing with vice versa, woman transitioning to a man. She acknowledges she was a woman, or that she is a woman, and that she's transitioning to a man, and now she's a man, right?
She's not.
I understand that, but you're at least acknowledging the binary system.
Yeah.
But now, the past couple of years, there's fluidity has been involved. And when there's fluidity, there's no identity. How can you identify as anything if it's so fluid? And with a lack of identity, back to the thing that we were saying before, malleability, you can do whatever you want with that person.
Right, which is why I believe that stuff is getting pushed heavily for nefarious reasons.
Yeah, because I do agree that transsexual has been happening since the dawn of time. A guy, back in a tribe in, who knows, 6,000 BC was, wearing a dress or whatever, and he was a shaman, and they respected that, whatever, because of his wisdom, whatever. But now what I'm having a problem with this is especially with children. You can educate them in that, but not force them or into it. Like that video you sent me of this teacher. Teacher goes, "Oh, it's my first day of school tomorrow, and I don't know what to tell my kids. I don't know if I should have them call me her or him, because I'm not. And this is just really tough." And it's like, how about focus on the goddamn curriculum?
It's narcissism.
That's what I'm saying. You shouldn't focus on yourself. Focus on your students.
Well, that's what I think. It's all ego. It makes them feel, because without that, they are just, left alone with their life and everything that their mind hates about themselves. And they'd rather join in on this fad to have special treatment.
Experimentation's fine if you're confused going through middle school or high school, and and play is important. Like you need to just like figure stuff out, try it out, whatever. That's fine, But to then force somebody or make it into something that it's now like, hey, this is like it's your way of being unique now, because being straight or just a female or just a male isn't enough. You're not, and I don't even like the word minority. Like, because minority is degrading what group of people that they actually are. You're not a minority. You're just a person, right? You're black, you're Hispanic, you're Asian, whatever.
Sure.
Yeah. So, now that you're not into a protected class of people, now you have to find a way to be unique. And if you're just white and male or female, the next category is, you got to be queer, you have to be LGBTQ, this, whatever. What bothers me is that it actually harms the people that actually think that way and that actually believe that, or the people that think that they actually need that. It's the same thing with the Me Too movement.
It's completely shitting on the authentic cases.
It's the same thing with the Me Too. Like when people, like in Me Too, like that actually happened to them, and then you have these people that are just trying to get a civil suit or whatever, and it's like you're actually now harming the people that have been damaged by this.
Look at the Kavanaugh thing. That fucking her coming out, it was bullshit. They had literally zero evidence to even verify any of that was true, and that was a complete grift on the actual thing to attack something that they didn't want in power. Now, I want to shift gears. Let's talk about Neil Young and Joe Rogan. So Joe Rogan is on Spotify.
Yes, just
He's on Spotify. And Neil Young came out with that public letter. You saw it. And said, Spotify needs to decide it's between me or Joe because he spreads misinformation. Well, Spotify took his shit off within 24 hours.
Saddest times.
I know. So I guess the point of this is, what were you going to say first?
I was going to say, name me one Neil Young song.
I know.
Does he sing "I've Seen Fire and I've Seen Rain," or is that someone else?
No, I think that is him.
I've seen fire and I've seen rain.
God, he looks like a wet potato.
He looks terrible.
He looks terrible. Like, he looks like he hates himself. But I think the underlying thing here with this whole story is, and this is kind of a nice button because we're doing alternative shit online, the power and the lack of the influence that is now shifted from what we deemed legit news, mainstream news rather, to now the power that these figures have. Like, I mean, I was telling you earlier, the picture of Joe Rogan, Jordan Peterson, Elon Musk. I mean, look at the influence that these people are having on the population, the culture. Mm-hmm. So do you think that right now this is going to be a wave of momentum that cannot be stopped at this point? Because I feel like every day it feels like it's just getting bigger on the side of the alternative media. Rogan's audience grows like exponentially, it feels like. I mean, I even went on Russell Brand's YouTube channel recently, and that dude has come a long way. The dude has almost 5 million people, and he's very open-minded. He did the Shapiro thing.
Yeah.
So anyway, do you think Spotify will ever get rid of Rogan at another point in time?
Maybe like 30 years from now when he's not big, but I don't think that that's going to happen. You can tell because even other news outlets are starting to follow his lead. CNN, MSNBC, now they're going, oh, the truth is cool now. People want the truth. They want facts. They want to know what's really going on. And so now they're starting to pick up this thing, and because it's business, right? It's all corporate. So there's I think governmental agendas that people have, or in government or globally, and then there's also business incentives. And so people, I think, even the big wigs are starting to realize, what makes they saw the ratings, the Joe Rogan one versus CNN, like by a long shot, dude. By a lot, it's like the U.S. military versus anybody else. Like it dwarfs it completely. And so now news outlets
how rogue can these news outlets go though? Because they have to be subservient to the greater narrative in the end, no matter what. You've been listening to Rogan for a long time. You've seen the evolution happen. Do you think at this point Rogan has such power and influence that he's almost cementing himself historically?
Yes, I would agree with that. The only thing that worries me about them giving him the axe is what's stopping Taylor Swift and Ariana Grande and a couple of their heavy hitters musically.
From them being like, it's either me or Rogan.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a good point.
That's scary.
But is there any deal more lucrative than Rogan on Spotify?
As long as he's making that much money, because if he wasn't as popular or wasn't making money, they'd can him. But as long as he's making that much money and that much of an impact, and that many people are paying attention to his channel, which I think will go on, because they know he's just authentic, he's truthful, he's really doing his research, he's bringing on people that are so qualified.
But it's funny because, to Jared's point, it seems like every tiff with Spotify is getting bigger because it was the employees, and then now you have a large music star coming out.
The thing about it all is the more controversies like these that he has, where, oh no, is he going to get canceled? It only makes him bigger.
It does every time.
And more money. And even if he doesn't, and if they can him off Spotify, all of them are going to follow him to the next platform.
Let's say Joe Rogan just goes to Rumble, and then Rumble becomes the next YouTube. I mean, he has the power, I think, to do that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I agree with you. Because right now, YouTube, I mean...
Dude, it's like a weird tipping point. They've been growing, and they're just getting too big for their fucking britches. They're not taking care of their creators.
Well, Google owns it. And I think that's all you need to know right there, too.
They're vicious. I can't take it. But
Gator Chomp,
we love you.
Oh, yeah, I know. Still, don't take it personal, YouTube.
Well, we appreciate you coming in for the channel and viewing everything. Make sure you like,
Subscribe, and maybe donate a little money. I don't know. We're trying to buy some beans here so we can make our own little garden here. So when the apocalypse happens, we can feed ourselves with soybeans.
Soybeans and rice.
Soybeans.
Exactly.
Well,
Like and subscribe.
like and subscribe. Thank y'all for watching.